What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, it's so easy to debunk a lot of these ignorant talking points that some of these, new age NBA fans who are really just LeBron fans or fans of an individual, a particular star, they love to crap on the players of yesteryear. And one of their favorite targets is none other than the player who I think is the GOAT, Wilt Norman Chamberlain. They like to say things like, Wilt played against a bunch of bums, and they like to regurgitate. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. Wilt played against nothing but 6'4" white little people. I can't say that word anymore because it's an offensive slur. But anyway, it doesn't make any sense to say that because 6'4" is not a little person. But whatever. Let's just go through 1 year. And this is actually on the downside of Wilt Chamberlain's career. Let's just go through the 1971-72 season. All right? This is when Wilt Chamberlain was with the Los Angeles Lakers. This is when Wilt Chamberlain was 35 years of age. Not the same player that he was early in his career with the Philadelphia, San Francisco Warriors, and the Philadelphia 76ers, and perhaps his first year with the Lakers, but he was still a force to be reckoned with. Now, let's look at all these bombs that he played. Now, back then, there was indeed an 82-game schedule, and that's the year that the Lakers won their first championship in Los Angeles, the year that they set what was then the single-season wins record of 69. Let's see how many Hall of Famers Wilt Chamberlain went up against. And when I say Hall of Famers, I'm just talking at the pivot. Either a center that he went up against or a power forward that played center and went up against Wilt Chamberlain that particular night. Now, before I go forward, how many Hall of Fame centers are there right now in the NBA? Or Hall of Fame quality centers? Jokic, absolutely. Joel Embiid, yes. Giannis is a power forward, but, he does guard them, so let's include him in the argument. Giannis. So that's 3. Who else is out there? Really? I don't know if Bam's getting in. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm getting at is, would Jokic be putting up these numbers if he went up against upper tier Hall of Fame quality centers on a more nightly basis rather than maybe 6 times out of the year? So he's able to pad his numbers against mediocre centers, mediocre opposition. Well, anyway, let's just look at this. And I'm just including Hall of Famers. Wilt Chamberlain matched up against Bob Lanier 5 times that season. Willis Reed once, because Willis Reed was injured for most of that year. Walt Bellamy he matched up against 5 times. Elvin Hayes 6 times. Spencer Haywood 5 times. Nate Thurman 6 times. Wes Unseld 3 times. He missed some games due to injury. Jerry Lucas 4 times. Dave Cowens 5 times. Connie Hawkins 6 times. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar 5 times. So Kareem went up against Hall of Fame quality centers 51 of the 82 games that he played that year. 51 of the 82 games that he played. And if you lower the bar to centers that at least appeared in one All-Star game, then it goes up because you have to add Luke Jackson, who he went against 3 times. Luke Jackson was an All-Star in 1965, the now late Luke Jackson, and the late Sam Lacey. He went up against him 5 times. Sam Lacey was an All-Star for the Kings. I think they might have been the Kansas City Omaha Kings in 1975. When you add them and lower the bar a little bit, then Wilt Chamberlain went up against at least a player that appeared in at least one All-Star game 59 out of the 82 games. Remember, this is a 17-game league back then. So one of the points I like to make is adding all these teams. The NBA is going to add even more teams before the decade is out, in my opinion. They're going to add even more teams. They're talking about bringing back the Sonics. They're definitely talking about adding a franchise. I think more than likely with anything, they're going to add a franchise in Las Vegas. And they're talking about creating a team in Mexico City. So that'll be 33 teams in the NBA. So that's 3 more franchises that's giving opportunities that right now aren't even available. So what that means is guys who aren't good enough to play in the NBA now will now be afforded opportunity to play in the NBA because there'll be 3 more franchises. So, like I said, you can always make the argument that with fewer teams, the quality of the product goes up. Because that means that a team is playing against the better players. The better competition is going to make the league. Players who aren't as good, who would be in the NBA, if there were more teams, are going to be in the stands or watching at home. Steve Kerr would not have been playing in the NBA in the 1960s and 70s. And that's not a knock on even the 80s and 90s. It's just that he wouldn't have fit into the NBA. All right? As recently as 1987, 88, there were 23 teams in the NBA. Then there was this explosion of expansion as the league became extraordinarily profitable. In 2 seasons, the league added the Charlotte Hornets, the Orlando Magic, the Miami Heat, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then, I believe 6 years after that, they added the then Vancouver Grizzlies, now the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Toronto Raptors. You don't think that diluted the talent pool a little bit in the NBA? Now, I'm not knocking the 90s, but it did. It especially you started seeing it in the late 90s. I mean, Roderick Rhodes, would he have been in the NBA in 1985? Do you remember Roderick Rhodes? I'm just saying. So, anyway, another stupid, dumb talking point. Wilt Chamberlain plays nothing but bums.